Greetings, everybody. It is I, the Nomad, coming to you live from the wastelands of the internet, coming to bring you news. News of the day, news that interests me, and maybe some other people. It would have been nice to have had Jensen on today, but apparently Discord is just not going to work, so unfortunately, Jensen is not going to be able to appear. All right, even if he had so desired, which I'm not sure he did. I mean, he has other issues going, other things to do. He's a busy man, although I do appreciate it when he does come on. It is a lot of fun. All right, let's get started, Chevy. Let's go. Live updates from AP. U.S. deploys thousands more troops to the war as Iran threatens world tourism sites. A U.S. official has confirmed that 3 more warships and roughly 2,500 more Marines are bound for the Middle East, where the U.S. military says it has about 50,000 troops. The Pentagon's request for another $200 billion to fund the war would need congressional approval as the U.S. national debt hits a record $39 trillion. On one of the holiest days of the Islamic calendar, Iran fired on Israel and energy sites in neighboring Arab Gulf states, insisting that it can still build missiles, issuing a new threat to deny the safety of its enemies in parks, recreation areas, and tourist destinations worldwide. Meanwhile, Israel pounded Tehran with airstrikes as Iranians marked Nowruz, the Persian New Year. I would say there's another issue going on, and that is the spokesman for the IRGC has been whacked off the face of the earth in one of these Israeli airstrikes. So the war continues. Iran refuses to buckle, which anybody with common sense knew that this wasn't going to happen easily. And I've said this before. If you're going to utilize this technique, you're going to have to go in it for the long haul. What's the long haul? You're going to have to do months of this. Think of it this way. Did Nazi Germany fall in 1943 after the United States entered the war, the air war in 1942, right? And with the British, began bombing around the clock. Germany and German sites. Did they buckle? They were losing thousands of troops in the war with Russia alone, all right, on the front lines. And from 42 to 43, did they buckle? No. From 43 to 44, did they buckle? As the air pounding continued and got worse? No. Now, we were not doing the same thing, and there was a lot of other extenuating circumstances you could look at, all right? It was far broader than just a single country. But anybody who understood what it was going to take out Tehran and take out the Iranian regime has to understand you've got to take out the entire Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC. You're going to have to take it completely out. It has to be completely removed. You have to take out all of their ability. And if you want to open up the Straits of Hormuz, there's only one way to do that. I've said it before. You wipe out everything in a 20-mile. You see anything moving within the 20 miles of the Gulf, of the Persian Gulf, and the Strait. You wipe it out. You drop leaflets warning people to get the hell out of there. Tell them they've got 48 hours to get the hell out of the area. And then what you do is when you see anything that moves, you wipe it out. Anything. That would be the only effective way of doing this. And even then, it's not going to be perfect. It'll inhibit things drastically. Don't get me wrong. It's a great preventative measure to do things. But you have to wipe out it all. You have to wipe it all out. You can't let them breathe. You got to wipe it out and then keep it wiped out. Oh, yeah, they're innocent women and children. No, they're the enemy. You have to understand what you're dealing with. There's only one solution to this, and it's not pretty. Spain's budget delayed as government rushes to cushion economic hit from Iran war. Something that would be going faster if they decided to help, but they don't want to help, so it is what it is. Spain will delay the presentation of its annual budget, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said on Thursday, as the cabinet puts together a package of emergency measures to counter the economic impact of the Iran war. These measures, due to be announced on Friday, which is today, will focus on cushioning the blow from rising fuel and electricity prices caused by the closure of the Straits of Hormuz. Gas prices have risen by more than 60% since the U.S. and Israel started attacking Iran in February of 28th. We are working on a budget. Nobody predicted this war. The government needs to work on the most urgent matter. The most urgent matter now is the war's impact. Yeah, well, you should be worried about another impact that's coming. Because there is one, Spain. There's another impact coming. You are going to be getting hit with a series of blows due to your leftist Marxist ideology. Marxism über alles, where you have more in common with the mullahs in Iran than you do with the Western ideological philosophical thought. You don't believe, and you never really have, in Western ideology. Just pointing it out. Western Wall rabbi denounces missile fire near the Holy Jerusalem sites, prays for safety. Rabbi of the Western Wall and holy sites, Shmuel Rabinowitz, that's probably how you pronounce it, condemned Iranian fire toward Jerusalem on Monday after a missile and interceptor fragments fell in and around the whole city, including near the Temple Mount, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Jewish Quarter, and the Western Wall. The incident raised concern because the area contains the most holiest sites of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. No, it does not. That is a lie. This makes any strike in the area an especially sensitive subject internationally. In a statement released on Tuesday, Rabinowitz said Jerusalem was a global symbol of holiness and called any attack near sacred sites a serious violation. Jerusalem is a global symbol of holiness. Harming the area in which the sacred sites of Jerusalem, Christianity, and Islam are located is a grave act that has no place. Okay. Now, I know a lot of people would disagree with me, all right? But I'm going to point out a few things here. First of all, when it comes to Islam, Islam has no holy sites. How could you say that? You got Mecca and Medina. Mecca and Medina, okay. Well, even if I grant you Mecca and Medina, right? Their reasoning for Jerusalem is Muhammad supposedly flew up to heaven from the Holy Mount. All right? This, of course, comes in text, close to 100 years after Muhammad died. It was an add-on affectation to justify their brutal repression and murder spree that they went on when they conquered Jerusalem. It amazes me that nobody wants to sit up there and look at that and what this was all about. Muhammad at first was saying that you should sit up there and pray 5 times a day, not towards Mecca, but towards Jerusalem. He claimed to be a Jew. The Jews said, no, you're not. So he said, "Fine, I'll pray toward Mecca. Pray toward Mecca now." That's reality. Holy sites of Jerusalem where Jesus walked from the Christian faith. Sure, you could say that it's an identified area. Christians do want to have pilgrimages to there, just so they can pray and walk in the steps of God. Jerusalem is where the Temple Mount was built, according to the Jews, by God ordering them, telling them, okay, here, go ahead, let Solomon build the temple, which housed the tabernacle, housed the Ark of the Covenant. That's the Jews' view of it. But the Muslim view is, oh, Muhammad flew up to heaven from Jerusalem. The reason for that was suspect. Let's leave it at that. And when I say that there's no holy sites in Islam, they don't look at mosques the same way that we look at churches or temples or religious temples. They don't. They have the Persian view of it, which is these are strong points. You attack them, you destroy them, and you take them over. You then fight for them and from them. You shoot from them. You spy on your enemies from them. The minarets around major mosques were not put there strictly for the call to prayer. They were manned outposts and lookouts from the fortified position. You might as well say that every castle wall is sacred. Just pointing it out. In Amsterdam, a big fire was broken out. A large fire broke out Friday at Westport Industrial Estate in western Amsterdam, sending thick clouds of smoke into the air, according to Dutch public broadcaster NOS. The blaze started at a storage site for electric scooters, with heavy smoke drifting over parts of the capital. No injuries were reported. The fire began shortly after 3 p.m. among electric scooters parked outside a storage facility before spreading to the building, a fire brigade spokesman said. We are doing our best to bring the fire under control. So either the electric scooters started on fire themselves, or it's possible that somebody started a fire in an electric scooter area. Now, lithium batteries are known, if they get too hot, to blaze up. And what can cause them to get too hot is if there's shorts within the lithium battery itself. That's why people had stories about, these things starting fires. Because they get hot, right? Especially if there's a short. And for people who don't understand, well, how can that happen? The distance between the contacts within a lithium battery are not very broad. Okay? And if the battery gets damaged somehow, even if it gets kicked and dented, You run the risk. Just it is what it is. U.S. says Cuba is prohibited from taking Russian oil as 2 tankers head to the island. The U.S. Treasury Department said Cuba won't be allowed to take delivery of Russian crude even as the fuel-starved island appears poised to receive 2 tankers carrying oil and gas. In a general license published Thursday, the Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control added Cuba to a list of countries that would be blocked from transactions involving the sale, delivery, or offloading of crude or petroleum products that originate from Russia. The United States had temporarily authorized the purchase of Russian oil stranded at the sea last week as part of an effort to stabilize energy markets during the United States-Israeli-led war on Iran. The short-term measures suspended sanctions that were first imposed on Moscow following a full-scale invasion of the Ukraine. The update comes as maritime intelligence providers have been tracking 2 tankers carrying Russian oil and gas heading toward Cuba. Beset by blackouts and worsening economic conditions under the U.S. oil blockade, the communist-run Caribbean country is currently facing its biggest test since the collapse of the Soviet Union. The U.S. President Donald Trump said earlier in the week that he thinks he'll have the honor of taking Havana in some form. Russia, which has been allied with Cuba for decades, close to 100 years now, well, not quite, because the revolution was in, what was it, 60s? So, 40, 60, 60, 60 years, 65 years, all right? Trump's fuel blockage and pledge to provide the country with necessary support, including financial aid. The tanker Seahorse is one of the vessels making its way to Cuba, according to maritime intelligence from firm Windward. The Hong Kong flag ship is estimated to be carrying around 990,000 barrels of Russian gas oil, and tracking suggests it could deliver its cargo in the coming days. The tanker has been engaged in deceptive shipping practices. An analysis published Wednesday by Windward found, including switching off its transponders during oil transfer, and it lacks Western insurance, which Windward says indicates potential sanctions circumvention. A second Russian flag oil tanker, the sanctioned Anatolia Kolodkin, is also thought to be on its way to Cuba with 730,000 barrels of crude oil. Maritime analytics firm Kepler said Wednesday, according to the AFP. CNBC has contacted Kepler and is awaiting a response. The shipment represents an act of defiance. Personally, what we should do is just sit up there and seize it and then put the oil tankers in the United States and start pumping the oil out. That's what I would do. You can't do that. The Russians are supposed to be embargoed. Russian oil is supposed to have been embargoed. I see no problem grabbing the ships and sticking them right in the U.S. port. And I don't care if something's flagged from China. You know, Hong Kong. It's supposed to be embargoed. We're enforcing the embargo. Next. It's just that easy, folks. It's just that easy. From Axios, James Comey subpoenaed in alleged grand conspiracy against Trump. Former FBI Director James Comey has been subpoenaed in a wide-ranging grand conspiracy case against the ex-officials who investigated and prosecuted President Trump. 2 sources with knowledge of the situation tells Axios. Here's why it matters. The investigation has produced more than 130 subpoenas since cranking up last year, sources say, and targets top officials who worked for the former presidents Obama and Biden. The officials, including Comey, have all decried the investigation as political persecution and lawfare. Of course they have, because what they were doing was criminal and they knew it. Comey is now terrified because of a lot of his actions are going to come home to roost. because he was committing crime after crime. In an effort to destabilize his political opponents. It's real rich for Comey to sit up there and try and say, oh, no, this is a political witch hunt, when that's exactly what you're committing, knowingly falsifying information to get a subpoena, all right? So you could sit up there and spy on the Trump administration. You did that. You knowingly signed a false declaration to the court, Comey. You knowingly signed it. You and your little frickin' henchman, Ray. In a just absolutely ridiculous move, and I do believe this is ridiculous, the message on Trump's coin is clear, and it's chilling. With that part I don't think is accurate, but it's not good. The making of a coin is like the making of a successful political campaign. The artist must clarify and concentrate a big idea into a symbol or slogan, so simple and telling that even the distracted eye can absorb it at a glance. This is what they call news at MSN and the Washington Post. This isn't editorializing at all. It's all about reduction, condensation, and distillation. Politicians may only get a few minutes of genuinely undivided attention from their voters, while coin designers must create something iconic on a canvas the size of a thumbnail. Well, a silver dollar is a little bit larger than a thumbnail. With coin design, less is more, said Caroline Turco, curator of the American Numismatic Association's Money Museum in Colorado Springs. The coinage, she added, is one of the oldest and most effective forms of political messaging or propaganda. On Thursday, the Trump administration won approval for an unprecedented coin design, which they're going to go back and say that it isn't unprecedented. All right. From the Commission of Fine Arts, an advisory panel founded in 1910 that evaluates the aesthetic merit of new federal architecture, landscaping, and design of our money, medals, and other commemorative works. The design of the coin, although not beautiful, is clear, perfectly clear in its messaging. The message is chilling. Well, that's a chilling message. This looks like a negative message. This person put out a freaking coin. It's a this. Now, they said it's unprecedented because the president is still living. And whether we don't sit up there and put, faces of coins on, people when they're still alive. Oh, but we've done it in the past. But it's unprecedented. It's not unprecedented. Should it be done? No. I do think that it's kind of stupid. Okay? I do think that President Trump has no business doing that. There are plenty of other silver rounds and so forth with your name on it and with your signature on it. These are not printed by the U.S. Mint, I grant you. But there are plenty that are out there. So doing this and saying we're going to put this on a gold coin, to be honest, I much prefer the Eagles and the Liberty coins, which the Mint has basically said we're going to stop doing, which is unfortunate. Police summoned to handle sticky bun dispute, or domestic sticky bun dispute. Domestic dispute requiring police intervention are never a laughing matter, unless, of course, two siblings are threatening to kill each other over who ate the last sticky bun. Police responded Monday afternoon to a Williamsport, Pennsylvania residence. Notice it's not Florida, all right? To handle a domestic in progress, no weapons, no intoxication. Officers were told the confrontation is between siblings over who ate the last sticky bun. They are now threatening to kill each other. Sadly, the TSG, all right, public records requests have been denied by the Warrensboro Police, all right, so that no further information about the confrontation is available, such as the age and identity of the sticky bun enthusiasts or whether arrests were made. Additionally, specific sticky bun details are lacking. However, the gooey treats are were not homemade. It appears that they came from Mr. Sticky, a Williamsport favorite that is a short drive from where the siblings clashed. Mr. Sticky offers several varieties, including a Cinnabon topped with our special and delectable cream cheese icing that clearly would be worth fighting over. So in Pennsylvania, don't eat the last sticky bun. If there's one sticky bun left, don't be the person to take it. What a day. United Kingdom's decriminalization of abortion. What the United States can learn from abortion criminalization in a global context. There's nothing we can learn from these people. Okay? Yesterday, the United Kingdom voted to decriminalize abortion. In a 185 to 145 vote, the British House of Lords approved an amendment reforming the criminal code provision that regulates abortions in England and Wales. In the face of recent uptick in prosecutions for miscarriages, stillbirths, and self-managed abortions, lawmakers have undertaken efforts to prevent women from being investigated, arrested, or prosecuted or imprisoned for murdering their own children. Because that's what it is. And anybody who disagrees with my view has to answer the question: if it's not murder, then when does human life begin? And why shouldn't it begin at conception? What's your reasoning for not determining that human life doesn't begin at conception? And the problem is with this is, first of all, the problem with this is the view that they had prevented women after a certain trimester from inducing an abortion, from killing their children. And this becomes the issue. Now, they can kill the child as it's being born. No repercussions whatsoever. This is murder, folks. It's murder. It's not. You're not going to tell me, all right, that there's a problem here. Until you're willing to sit up there and say, okay, this is why I believe, right, that it's not a human being, all right, that's not a human being. It's a human being, folks. What's your reasoning for not saying that? What's your reasoning? You won't have a good one. More British news. Brits told to work from home and use ovens less as Middle East energy crisis explodes. Rachel Reeves can't help because she's maxed out Britain's credit card. Okay, let's be perfectly frank here. You have no reason for this. Get a little drink here. You have plenty of North Sea oil. Oh, but your environmental green Nazis have pretty much put a stop to that, haven't they? In fact, your Labor Department, which wants to end all fossil fuels, they should be celebrating this. But now it's a problem. Brits are being urged to work from home and use ovens less as the Middle East crisis deepens today. Amid mounting concerns over the global supply chains, the International Energy Watchdog has issued advice to cut down on car use and cook with air fryers. The stark message comes as households start to feel the Trumpflation impact from the Iran war, with oil and gas prices spiking. But you're doing nothing to end the crisis sooner, are you? No, in fact, you're making it so that the crisis will continue decades longer if you have your say. The stark message comes as fears over the new wave of inflation today sent the UK government borrowing costs at the highest level since 2008, the peak of the credit crunch misery. That has raised more doubts about whether Rachel Reeves will be able to find money to help families cope with the looming pain, as happened after Russia's full-scale invasion of the Ukraine in 2022. The Tories have accused the Chancellor of maxing out the nation's credit card with runaway welfare spending, as figures show February's public sector borrowing was the highest on record outside of COVID. Downing Street stressed the IEA advice was not official in the UK, saying people should behave normally. The PM's official spokesman said, "This is the IAEA's general advice for countries across the world, and it is not in place in the UK. We have a diverse, resilient supply. People in the UK should continue to go about their days in a normal fashion." In other twists and turns today, Cornwall projected the typical energy bill will rise 332 pounds to 1,973 pounds a year in July when the cap next changes. Gee, I don't wonder why. Who's at fault for that? People who elect and the people who believe the green energy deals. They're the ones celebrating. Welcome, Labor. Welcome to who you really love, who you really adhere to. And it's not the British people. And it's not the British common man. Labor is not there to support the British common man. It's there to support the leftist loons and the communists, right, who have nothing but disdain and distaste for what Britain has ever accomplished. Any more than they have nothing but disdain and distaste for what the United States has ever accomplished. CBS News Radio shutting down after 10 decades. Good night, good luck to the fabled home of Cronkite, Murrow, Osgood, and Rather. Commie, 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 and commie. Walter Cronkite was a frippin' backdoor, backstabbing weasel communist, all right, who hated that this country was so powerful while he sat on yachts living it up with his celebrity friends. The man was scum. Just putting it out there. This is what Barry Ice will be remembered for, destroying the legacy of CBS News. Today, CBS, that's from Showbiz. All right. 411. CBS announced today that it will cut staff 50% of its staff. This is as Weiss is paid $150 million by David Ellison to carry out this erasure. And if they cut 15% of its staff, how many billions of people or billions of dollars will CBS save? Billion. Billions. Not 150 million in a one-time shot to Barry Weiss. Now comes the announcement that the famed and important CBS News Radio will end the 100-year run in May. They've told 700 radio affiliates that they are pulling the plug. Among them are WINS New York, KNX 1070 in Los Angeles, stations I and many others depend on. Oh, so Mr. Roger Friedman is getting screwed. I'm sorry, Roger. Not really. I really don't give a rat's ass about you, Roger. Gone in this disaster are names we hear every day, like Cammy McCormick. Anybody remember who that is? Jim Cressla, Darnell Rodriguez, and Vicky Barker, none of which I am familiar with, I'll be perfectly honest. All of them have day in and day out reported news from all over the world, fearlessly, tirelessly, and objectively. And as soon as a leftist says we're being objective, that there's nothing else to say about it. They're obviously not, because they're not an objective news source. And that's been a problem. It's been a problem. Dome over contaminated nuclear blast site is leaking. Expert warn risk from lethal landfill could be devastating. All right. Experts are having a nuclear meltdown. Cracks in a dome over a contaminated nuclear blast site have sparked fears that the containment area has sprung a dangerous leak, which could snowball amid rising seas. Yes, it's climate change, folks. Another climate change worry. We worry the integrity of the dome could be in jeopardy, said Columbia University chemistry professor Ivana Nikolic Hughes, who witnessed the cracks while measuring radiation levels in 2018, told the Australian Broadcast Corporation. The fiasco can be traced back to 1958, when the U.S. dropped an 18-kiloton bomb on the Marshall Islands Runt Island as part of a series of nuclear tests that were conducted in the South Pacific in the 1940s and the 1950s. Now, 50 years on, experts have become concerned. Which experts? Experts in what? Concerned that cracks in the dome could demonstrate how susceptible the site is to rising sea levels on Runet's narrow shores. Groundwater has already seeped into the crater, while porous coral sediment underneath it is responsible for the lion's shares of the leaks. Experts fear that certain portions of the nuclear tomb could be submerged before long. Outside of covering it with cement and doing studies, they really haven't done a lot to shore it up or to fix it, lamented Marshallese Health Secretary Jack Niedenthal. So as we get these rising sea levels where everything is only a few feet above the water at high tide, it's pretty concerning. Known as the cactus test, the detonation dry run obliterated part of the tropical island, sending a mushroom cloud nearly 4 miles into the air above the Eniwetok, I'm not going to butcher it anymore, atoll, the Eniwetok atoll. The over 30-foot blast crater would become the landfill for 120,000 tons of contaminated debris from the test, including lethal amounts of plutonium as part of a military cleanup effort. The containment area was sealed in a concrete dome measuring 300 feet wide by 1.5 foot thick and was constructed between 1977 and 1980. Experts say it was akin to sweeping one's atomic problems under the rug. We didn't do a good job, said Robert Sestelli, Sestile, Celestial, a former United States Army truck driver who was one of the troops tasked with filling the hole, reportedly without being briefed on the true nature of the gig. We didn't know what the plan was, so a lot of the equipment and hot stuff we just dumped into the lagoon, which is not under the dome. Professor Nicola Hughes, who found the elevated radiation levels in the soil surrounding the dome, said she fears that intensifying storms could further threaten its integrity. A United Nations report observed that the structure was not watertight. The United States Department of Energy claims that the cracks were a natural part of aging. True, right? Adding that the radiation debris that have been contained and that the contamination risk is negligible. All right, let's talk about this for a moment. Why is that dome there? I'm going to be really blunt with you guys. They didn't. Hey, Jensen, how long before the MC calls? Right. Sorry, I haven't been paying attention to chat yet. Is there going to be leakage of this material into the surrounding area? The answer to that unequivocally is yes. Is that a good thing? No, it's not. But that's not what it's there for. That's not its primary reason. I know a lot of people are like, oh, they were there to prevent the stuff from leaking into the area. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. And I encourage you all to go. This is from the New York Post, folks. You're right. You can find the story. I encourage you to read the whole story, and then I want you to put on your thinking caps, not your scaredy cat caps, not your oh my God, it's radiation caps. By the way, Jensen, I can't get Discord to work right now, so that's why I haven't. I appreciate you coming over, but I couldn't get Discord to work. Yeah, I wish I will attempt to go there, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do anything. I'll give it a try. I'll give it a try. do 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 do. Well, as long as anything tries to come up, I will give it a try, and we will see what happens, shall we? Do 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 do. No joy. I cannot hear you, and no one can hear you. Okay, we'll bounce to the next one. Still no joy. Sorry, Jensen. Let me put this in there so you know. Discord's not playing nice. I tried. I did try. Again, I should say. Anyway, back to the story. I'm having problems figuring out where to find things. We'll close this out. But the nuclear pile, the nuclear material, for some reason. Okay. I will be honest with you. The main purpose for having that dome was to prevent people from going there and getting access to plutonium. You put it all in a big chunk like that, then you sit up there and cover it over. There was enough plutonium in residue around there, right? That if you mined it, you could reconstitute it and possibly reconstitute it with the weapons grade plutonium that everyone worries about. I'm not exactly sure why Discord is giving me issues though. But the the idea that somehow what we were doing was to prevent the leakage at 100%. They know it's going to leak in the area. They knew it was going to leak. They knew it when they were building it that it was going to leak. That it wasn't going to be a perfect seal. Anybody who says otherwise is lying to you. This guy just admitted that he didn't even know what he was dropping in the area, and he dropped a bunch of the stuff instead of putting it into the tomb area. That he just sat there and dumped it in the lagoon. Nothing wrong with plutonium. The main thing that they were trying to avoid, right, was that for people to go in there and get a hold of plutonium and other sensitive elements easily. The fact that it's slowly leaking into the area, they don't give a shit about it. Is it a concern? To a point, yeah, it is. Is it, oh my god, if water goes over the top of it, it's all going to come out and it'll be everything. No one cares about that. Are we dead because of Fukushima? Fukushima put a hell of a lot more freaking radioactive material into the ocean than this will. Just pointing it out. Jackass dumped flour on Walmart shopper's head. An Indiana man, notice no Florida man stories today. An Indiana man who poured a bag of flour over the head of a 68-year-old woman shopping at a Walmart was arrested yesterday for the brazen attack, video of which the man streamed live online like an idiot. Investigators charged Philip Leon Weaver, 22, snuck up behind the victim Wednesday morning as she was shopping for her grandchildren. It's going down, Weaver announced as he broadcast the attack live via Facebook. After dousing the woman, Weaver tossed the 5-pound bag of flour and fled to Walmart in Beech Grove, an Indianapolis suburb. Weaver subsequently posted video of the sneak attack along with the caption, "Pouring flour on lady's head." Weaver, who had previously filmed pranks in the store, was arrested Thursday afternoon and is facing criminal mischief, battery, and theft charges. He is also hit with a separate gun theft count. That's a felony count. They're looking to put this guy away. While the elderly victim was not harmed in the flour attack, she was upset and crying while being interviewed by police. Pictured at the left, Weaver is being held in the Marion County Jail on the felony and misdemeanor charges. Weaver has posted prior filmed Walmart pranks to his Instagram page and on Facebook, where he reported, "I've been high for 5 years straight." Beech Grove Walmart was previously graced with these pages after two women engaged in a wild fight in the store's shampoo aisle. Takeaway is internet. Judge should take away his internet. In the sad news of the day, by the way, Jensen, just so you know, I did do your stories. I don't know if you saw them. Action star Chuck Norris dies at age 86 after a medical emergency. Yeah, like his heart stopping. Medical emergency. Action star Chuck Norris has died at the age of 86. It has been confirmed. The American actor and martial artist died on Thursday morning in Hawaii, having been rushed to the hospital in a medical emergency. In a statement shared on his Instagram page, the announcement this afternoon read, "It is with a heavy heart that our family shares the sudden passing of our beloved Chuck Norris yesterday morning. While we would like to keep the circumstances private, please know that he was surrounded by his family and was at peace." And it added, in tribute, "To the world, he was a martial artist, actor, and symbol of strength. To us, he was a devoted husband, a loving father and grandfather, an incredible brother, and the heart of our family. He lived his life with faith, purpose, and an unwavering commitment to the people he loved. Through his work, discipline, and kindness, he inspired millions around the world and left a lasting impact on so many lives, including boots to the face, to be honest. The sudden impacts of boots to the face is. All right. It's he was an American icon. There's no doubt about it. All right. He was he appeared to be in great health even at the age of 86. Okay. Uh, it's sad in a way, right? I mean, it's sad for us. Okay. We don't know what his medical conditions were like and what he was, may or may not have been, having to deal with. All right. But overall, the one thing you can say about Chuck Norris is that he was a good guy. It is what it is. Jensen sent me a meme. I always get a little feel a little bit of trepidation. All right, looking at memes from Jensen, folks. Don't get me wrong; they're all funny. All right, they're all meaningful. They have an impact. But when you open one of his memes, you just don't know what you're going to end up with. Okay, just so we can show everybody here. This is the meme that it's a very good meme. I can't deny. It's my time. I'll be out shortly. uh, American icon. This is a heck of a story. Middle class Americans are selling their plasma to make ends meet. Last year, people in the United States made an estimated 4.7 billion selling their plasma. Donation centers are popping up in middle-class neighborhoods, including suburban strip malls and college towns. Well, they were always in college towns and suburban things. All right, inside a suburban Philadelphia strip mall, between the Hair Cuttery and Citizens Bank, a dozen people lay back on ergonomic beds a few feet apart, hooked up through a needle in the crook of their arms to machines pumping out blood from their veins. They were there to sell their plasma in exchange for $65 on a prepaid debit card. Ian Pleasant, 43, had come that morning to get some extra cash for toilet paper and pet food. I'm making enough money now doing DoorDash to keep up with the bills, but anything else in the house, this is going to help out, he said, as he waited for an employee at the B Positive Plasma Center in Holmes, Pennsylvania, to insert a thick needle into his arm. An hour later, the employee came back to collect a container of his straw-colored plasma that would be tested, frozen, and turned into medicines and sold for profit to patients around the world. The scene repeated by an estimated 200,000 people a day across the country as part of a multi-billion-dollar industry fueled by a growing number of Americans willing to trade their blood for money in an economy where many have seen their job prospects weaken, costs rise, and savings dwindle. This is the not the boomer generation, it's the generation after where they don't want to work hard. They didn't take a lot of seriousness to their lives early on when they should have been. They were busy partying in college. This guy does DoorDash at 43. Makes me wonder if he's still sleeping in his mom's basement. Don't get me wrong. I have no problem with people selling their blood plasma, especially in colleges, because college students are poor generally because they're too busy wasting their money on stupid shit like partying. So selling plasma in a college town, no shit. And you can sell, I think, plasma twice a week or something like that. I don't know what the rules are. I'll be honest with you. Maybe less, maybe more. Right? But I think it's twice a week is what I heard. All right. What they do is they take the plasma, they take the blood out, they put it in a centrifuge, they put the blood back in you, and they keep the plasma. That's the process that they utilize for this. Right? So you're not bleeding out, all right? And most of the plasma is replaced fairly quickly with the body, inside of the body. But it's not necessarily a good thing, all right? And there have been other problems with these kinds of centers. But as far as the economic woes for the country, I would have asked this person, seriously, I would have asked this person, did you vote for the Democrats? Who'd you vote for in the last election? What do you think about illegal immigration? Because if you don't like working at DoorDash and want to work in other areas, then you got to sit up there and take a look at what's going on with it. In another frightening, and this is very frightening, folks. I don't think people understand this. This next story is horrifying. If you don't get it, scientists turned mosquitoes into a vaccination tool to immunize bats against rabies. Mosquitoes typically spread disease rather than preventing it, but Chinese scientists have proposed using insects as an unlikely vector to deliver vaccines to bats. The study published in Science Advances journal, researchers designed mosquitoes to carry an immunization for rabies and Nipah viruses within their saliva. It is transferred to the bat when bats eat insects or the insects feed on the bats. The proposal would solve a problem many have grappled with. How do you vaccinate a flying mammal, which often roosts in caves with millions of others, without exposing yourself to diseases that they carry? Okay, think about what they just said. Think about what this means. They are going to introduce drugs into a biting insect and then release the biting insect to bite whoever. Oh, well, we're going to set up there and immunize bats. Yeah. Which is immunizing bats? The supposed vector for COVID, right? If they can do that with bats, I wonder what else they might be thinking about releasing mosquitoes on the population to do. For whatever cockamamie drug cocktail they came up with to introduce it in the population without anybody even knowing it. If somebody sits up there and agrees with this kind of nonsense, you're out of your flipping mind. But oh man, getting rid of rabies is a good thing. I'm not saying getting rid of rabies isn't a good thing. But you better start thinking about the implications of this, as it's far broader than just bats. In the how stupid do you have to be? Newborn killed when left alone with stray dog her family had just taken in. A newborn girl was mauled to death in Michigan after she was left alone with a stray dog her family had only recently taken in, according to cops and her heartbroken grandmother. The unidentified 5-year-old girl suffered multiple puncture wounds when a mixed breed dog attacked her in the family's Novi home outside of Detroit on Tuesday morning, cops said. The baby should never have been left alone. Ding, 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 ding. Linda French told WXYZ News, saying she never got to meet her new granddaughter. I'm devastated. French, whose stepson is the baby's father, said the newborn was sleeping in the bassinet type bed at the time of the attack. The dog is believed to have knocked the bed over and quickly attacked before the baby's parents could intervene. French claimed that the family had only taken in the dog just months earlier, and it had previously lunged at her. They didn't know that dog. They don't know where it came from, she insisted, squarely blaming the parents for putting their kids at risk. I'm sorry to say that about my stepson, but those kids don't belong there. It's horrifying. It's horrifying. This is one of the best clips Trump ever could do. Okay. You want to know why Trump was one of the best presidents we've ever had? This is why. President Trump defended his decision not to give Japan advance warning with the attack on Iran, citing Tokyo's 1941 surprise raid that killed 2,403 Americans at Pearl Harbor. We didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted it to be a surprise, Trump told a Japanese journalist as the country's prime minister, Sane Takaichi, sat next to him in the Oval Office. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? He said. Right, you believe in surprise. I think much more so than us. He basically sit up there and had a reporter try and play a gotcha game, trying to embarrass the president. Well, you should have told your allies that this was going to happen here. And his comment quit back was, why didn't you tell us about Pearl Harbor before 1941? He's exactly right. I'm tired of these insufferable assholes trying to sit up there and trying to humiliate the president. And then the rest of the world goes, how could you say that? Why shouldn't he have said it? The fact that he's able to repost like that, the president to respond so perfectly to a person who had a negative agenda, who's doing this to try and embarrass America and embarrass the president. And you want us to go, oh, we shouldn't be talking that kind of stuff to people like that. No, that's exactly how we should respond to these people. This whole idea that the United States could be the whipping post and the whipping boy and the water boy for everybody on the planet, for every bad thing that comes down the line, go screw yourselves. Go screw yourselves. Final stories, folks. 2 more stories. Sheriff warns of bull on the loose in Kansas. A Kansas sheriff's office is warning local residents to be on the lookout for an escaped bull spotted on the loose in Miami County. This is in Kansas, all right, not Florida. Miami County Sheriff's Office said on a social media Thursday that the bull escaped its pen at the Paula Sale Barn and was spotted loose in the area of Stewart Lane and Harmony Road. The bull is considered aggressive and should not be approached. Now, this is I'm not sure what this photo is from. All right, I don't think this is from the escaped bull. I think this is from like Mexico or something like that, where they're or Spain during the running of the bulls. Right. The sheriff's office said in an update that the animal's owners had located it and are working to recapture it. All right. Trust me, bulls can be dangerous. They can and do trample people. Have I been ever trampled by a bull? Nomad? No. But I have been trampled by cattle before. Just pointing it out. Bulls are a different story. I know everyone goes out there and watches bull riding and sees stories of rodeos and things like that, and they think they understand bulls. No, you don't. They're animals. They have their own instincts. And if they decide you're a road patty, you'd better just put yourself somewhere where it can't find the road, because otherwise you're going to be a patty on it. I'm just pointing out. Get out of the road. Get out of the way. Final story from, once again, Britain. Capybara on the loose after zoo escape in England. Now, I don't know what you guys do in England. Now, we have a lot of zoos in America, and we have a lot of loose animals in America. But most of them don't come from the zoos. The vast majority of them come from freaking personal owners, right? That sit up there and screw up. But in Britain, you guys have a much tighter leash on what people have. So your animals just escape zoos, and you seem to have as many zoo escapes as we do, as animal escapes. A zoo in England is asking nearby residents to report any sightings of a capybara that escaped from the facility just one day after arriving. The Maxwell Zoo in Winchester, Hampshire, said female capybara Samba and Tango arrived at the facility Monday and both escaped Tuesday from their temporary holding areas. Tango was quickly located nearby, but Samba was more adventurous, the zoo said on social media. The zoo said Samba was spotted Wednesday night in Owsleybury, I'm not going to butcher it anymore, right, a nearby village, but zoo personnel were unable to capture her. Capybaras are native to South America, are the world's largest rodents. Capybaras are intelligent, gentle animals with a taste for adventure and are tasty to eat. No, I mean, they do not pose a risk to the public. However, we are strongly advised against approaching Samba or disturbing any area she may be hiding to prevent her causing her stress. Under no circumstances should a member of the public try to capture her by themselves. The zoo is asking anyone who spots Samba to report her precise location. We do keep a watch out when walking or driving, right, in a local area. Check ponds, local waterways, as capybaras love to spend time in the water. She is likely to be more mobile at night. Just putting it out there. All right, everybody, that's all the stories I got for the day. Hope that you all had a good day. And